The recording is going. You heard that kick in. This is a trust call. This is your pathetic leader, a guy who looks like Porky, with Richard Howard. Today is January 26th, 2017. I'm a moron. And now I'm going to, I've got to remember, idiot.
Q&A session has started. To ask your question, please press *6.
You're going to have to raise your hand, and I think it's *2 or *6. I was looking and I didn't see, so start with that. Richard, this isn't the same system that I used on the other one, so it takes a little longer. Did you raise your hand? Let me try it here. Richard, is that you? It says anonymous.
No.
Nope.
It's just a scammer.
Oh, bless your heart, anonymous. Goodbye. That looks like it. Okay, 310, area code 310. Is that you, Richard?
Yes. Hi. Yes.
No,
I had to do.
Hold on. No, I'm looking for Richard. I see you have your hands raised, but I'm trying to get Richard to raise his hand. Hold on a second.
*6-1.
Well, that's to ask a question or raise your hand?
That's how I got to you.
*6?
*6-1.
Ah, okay. So I'm gonna leave you in the queue there. So hold on. I'm gonna mute you out. Let's see. 760. Richard, is that you?
Oh, that's me,
Nope.
Jennifer.
Nope. All right, hold on. 949. Richard.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Your
All
turn.
right, good. Okay.
Okay. Now, if you have questions, just star. I think you had to do *6 and 1. Richard.
Yes, that's if you want to get in queue. That's correct. But
so I know, but if people are going to want to ask questions, so *6 and then 1 to get in the queue. All right, Richard, it's your turn. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I understand we're gonna have a number of different groups and people on the call today. There's going to be some new people. There's going to be some old hands, the Wingit group. So what I want to try to do is keep this as basic as I can and give everybody a good overview. Before we get started, I want to make sure that everyone understands that by tomorrow, because this has been a big question, I will have a list on the web, the homepage of masterstrust.com. In the upper right-hand part of the website, a list of approved trust tax preparers, either CPAs or enrolled agents, or so there'll be a choice of 4 people so far. We're interested in pursuing others. So if there are some enrolled agents or other CPAs that would like to participate and understand about this, that's fine. But these 4 will be up there by tomorrow morning. And you can pick, we're going to come back and revisit the responsibility of filing a 1041, but we'll come back to that later. So I want to get into, keep this as simple as we can. There's going to be a lot of, maybe some new people on here. The main reason that people so far have come to us for the trust work, and especially this trust, is that they want to do 2 basic things. They want to protect their assets, and they want to select an operating entity that gives them the best tax advantages for their situation. we all have a legal right to choose business operating entities to take advantage of the best tax laws that we can take advantage of. This trust does two things. Any assets that are assigned into this type of trust are held in trust, managed by the trustee for the benefit of the beneficiaries. So when an asset goes into this particular type of trust, and it can be real estate, it can be gold, it can be any asset that has a potential to increase in value. Once it goes into this trust, it is protected from any penetration, and this has been tested in the courts twice. A judge cannot issue a turnover order against assets placed into this trust to pay the debts of either the trustee or any of the beneficiaries. And that's important. The trust holds the assets in trust, which means technically the trust doesn't own them. You no longer own them. And because of that, there's no equitable interest in those assets. Therefore, the trust cannot be penetrated to take those assets from you. The other reason is because if you choose a trust as a business entity, and by the way, a trust can perform any function that a corporation or an LLC can without all of the yearly fees and other complicated tax returns. So if you choose a trust, which a lot of people have, this trust, this is pretty much the ultimate in tax advantages. So in other words, if you place an asset into this trust, and it could be real estate, again, it could be, some people I understand have, or not understand, but have invested in certain currency. Anything that has a potential to increase in value and be subject to tax, once that asset is placed into this trust, then this trust is not subject to capital gains taxes. So you place an asset into this trust, you sell that asset, and as long as the proceeds from that sale stays in the corpus of the trust, you have deferred taxes, capital gains taxes on that income. It's not considered income to the trust, therefore it's not taxable to the trust. So anything, the way that this trust is written complies absolutely with the IRS Title 26 of the IRS code, and you have to understand a little bit about how this trust is written to be able to understand that it complies with Title 26, which means, again, if an asset increases in value and you decide to sell it, then it is not subject to capital gains taxes, and it's deferred until the trustee utilizes the money in a way that creates a taxable event, a personal tax event, for either himself as the trustee or him or herself as the trustee or the beneficiaries. And that's fundamentally when you take it out of the trust, meaning writing yourself a check. There are plenty of ways that we won't get into right now where you can utilize that money in the trust that is not taxable to either the trustee or the beneficiaries, meaning the trust purchase of a car for the benefit of one of the beneficiaries, the purchase of real estate, investment accounts, those are not considered taking money out of the trust. They're just considered utilizing the funds in a way that's not taxable to either the trustee or the beneficiaries. The trustee can pay debts on behalf of the beneficiaries, and that's not taxable to the beneficiaries. So fundamentally, basically, when you take money out of the trust, somebody will be taxed. People will call me up and say, Richard, what do you, I want to take a $25,000 or $10,000 salary out of the trust each month. What do you think the IRS is going to say? And I'm sitting there, I say, you're looking at this wrong. They're going to be clapping because they know that they're going to get some tax revenue from the fact that the trustee is taking that salary. So there are ways that you will learn that how to utilize the funds that are in the trust for your benefit. You'll just learn that over time. We won't get into that too much now. An example of I had a lady that called me up and she said, I just got a call from an investment counselor, and I own a percentage of a building that they're selling, and my share is going to be around $250,000. It was a small share. It wasn't. I mean, $250,000 is nothing to laugh at. But she says, it's gone through a couple of 1031 exchanges. I want to. They're going to sell it, and what do I do? I said, don't panic. Let's get that asset assigned into the trust. We did that. The building closed. Oh, by the way, her tax was she estimated capital gains tax on that was going to be about $130,000 because they had gone through a couple of 1031 exchanges. We got it assigned. This building sold, and they wrote her a check for just under $260,000, and that sale was not subject to capital gains. So she purchased the trust. She had been contemplating it. She spent several $1,000s to save $130,000, and that's the way this trust works. People will ask, is this a statutory or non-statutory trust? And I say it's neither. The opposite of a non-statutory trust is basically a common law trust that the IRS does not recognize for any kind of asset protection or tax benefits. And you would think that the opposite of a non-statutory trust would be a statutory trust, and it's not. A statutory trust is basically used by a lot of municipalities to hold on to real estate for other purposes. When you describe this trust, and you have to be aware of these words, and this, when you describe it, it is an irrevocable, complex, non-grantor, discretionary trust with spendthrift provisions. And all of those words working together is what is the power of this trust. And some people will get freaked out with the irrevocability of trust, and it's not, and don't, because it's not as onerous as you think it is. In other words, you don't have to plan the rest of your life in this trust. You can, because it's irrevocable, you can't change any of those 5 descriptive words. And you don't want to, because it will take something away. But inside of the trust, the trustee has the latitude to buy and sell real estate, to add and delete beneficiaries as required. Technically, the trustee, because he's also the compliance overseer, could fire himself or herself if they wanted to. You wouldn't probably want to do that, but nevertheless, there's a lot of flexibility in this type of irrevocable trust. In other words, the rest of your life does not have to be planned out for this to work for you. A trust has to be written as an irrevocable complex trust to have any tax deferral, and it has to be written as an irrevocable spendthrift trust for asset protection. People will ask questions. For instance, I hear that you have to put different assets into different trusts, and that's just not the case. Either a trust can be penetrated or a trust cannot be penetrated. And if this trust is set up properly and is legally operated, this trust cannot be penetrated. Your assets will be protected as long as you comply with the terms of the trust and you're doing a lawful business. And most all of us are. As far as the tax benefits, besides the capital gains taxes, assets inside of the trust that increase in value will be determined by the trustee at the end of the year to be extraordinary dividends, which is not income to the trust. Therefore, it's not taxable to the trust. And certain other types of income to the trust, for instance, the monthly rental income of income producing properties, commercial properties. That income, if the trust renegotiates their if they renegotiate their leases to have those the rents paid to the trust at the end of the year, the trustee will designate that income as being applied to the corpus of the trust, treated as extraordinary dividends, and again, it's not taxable to the trust. It's only taxed when the trustee takes it out himself, takes it out of the trust, or writes a check directly to a beneficiary. This trust is extraordinarily it's very sophisticatedly written, but it's extraordinarily easy to manage. And I'm going to get to a question here in a few minutes about something, and that when we first get to the Q&A, other benefits of this trust is that the assets held in trust bypass probate, bypass estate taxes, and also helps you with Medicare spend down provisions. So, in other words, if you operate this trust, you don't have to worry about the assets ever getting into probate. You don't have to worry about estate taxes, and you don't have to spend your wealth to apply for Medicare for long-term care if you needed it, because technically assets held in this trust make you personally a pauper, and that bypasses. Now there's a look back period on that, and that's why people should do some estate planning early. And I think that look back is 5 years for the spend down provision, but at least you don't have to spend your wealth. You can save your wealth for your heirs, and you don't have to spend that down. Let's talk a minute about who benefits. Most everyone, real estate investors, a real estate investor that owns properties that have gone through multiple 1031 exchanges, or they want to liquidate, they're at the end of they want to retire, they want to liquidate their properties. Normally, to liquidate those properties, they would be subject to a fair amount of capital gains taxes. Well, if a trust is formed, real estate is assigned into the trust and then liquidated, those properties are not subject to capital gains taxes. An investor holding real estate in one of these trusts or a business trust or a real estate trust, which we have, wouldn't be required to do a 1031 exchange. Now, if someone questions the tax deferral of this, I want to just mention that it's not exactly the same thing. There are two other examples right now of deferring taxes so that it's not a stretch that this trust is written in compliance with Title 26. A 1031 exchange, for those people who don't know, is a legal tax deferral opportunity for people who have commercial properties that have outlived their depreciation and their benefits. It's a complicated, expensive maneuver by that real estate investor, but assets held in this type of trust are not subject to that. You can buy and sell. In other words, you can buy a building for $2 million today and sell it tomorrow for $4 million, and that other $2 million is not subject to capital gains taxes, as long as it stays in the corpus of the trust and is not taken out of the trust. That money can be reinvested or not reinvested. It really doesn't matter. People with a fair amount of liability would benefit. Doctors, people who have to carry a doctor, we can absolutely protect his assets, every asset he has. We can structure a plan that helps him move income into his trust, and we can literally help him mitigate the liability insurance that he has to carry, because no one is going to take his assets from him. We protect his homes, his or her homes, any kind of real estate that they own, investment accounts. So anyone who has any fair amount of liability, we actually are working on a law firm in the Pacific Northwest that is going to start operating or using our trust to protect themselves, which I think is pretty interesting. There may be, for some of the people who've been on here a while, if you think that you're going to have a real life event that would, selling a piece of property, selling anything, if you're going to do that and you want to talk about how this trust could help you, at least the example I gave you, the lady spent several $1,000s to get her trust, and she saved $130,000 in capital gains taxes. So call me if you think that that might be something that you want to look at. And that Jerry, is just about it as far as the presentation is concerned. But I want to lead off, because there's going to be a lot of questions with 3 questions that were sent to me before we proceed to Q&A. Is that all right?
Sure. And it's *6 to raise your hand, and then I think it's 1 will put yourself in the queue. This is a new system. I apologize. A lot of wireless companies, I'm trying to keep the call short so you don't eat into a lot of your minutes, because this is how they make money. They charge your wireless carrier so much a minute if you go over a certain amount on your plan. All right, go ahead.
Okay. The first question that was sent to me, which is a lot of people have responded to, is, do I need to file a tax return for 2016? The answer is yes. It's a simple form 1041. You will be able to contact any one of the tax preparers or the CPAs that we have on the website as of tomorrow. Since it's going to be, most of you are don't have a lot of activity in your trust at the moment, so it should be pretty simple. But you might just contact them or contact your accountant. It's basically going to be a zero tax return. It's 2 pages of a 1041, and you just send it in for this year. If you got an EIN number in 2016, so you need to do that. The other question: should I have completed and recorded a trust meeting no later than December 30th, 2016? If so, what is the procedure? With which agency do I record the meeting? Well, in this trust, there are no, I understand that some trusts you have to have these meetings and you have to have, trustees meetings and all of this other stuff. That's not required in this trust. But more importantly is the concept of recording the meeting. And I want to point out something here. In this trust, none of the documents are, with the exception of deeds, none of the documents should ever be notarized or recorded with any entity. You've already recorded your trust with the IRS, and that's all you need to do. So I want to caution, I will, from time to time, I'll tell people, don't notarize your documents. And people will go ahead and do it. And here's the reason, is that this trust is a private document. It's a private trust, a private asset protection trust. No one can force you to turn over the contents of your trust to be able to review it. Not a court of law, no one. They can't force you. If you notarize your documents and people find out about it, once you've notarized something, you've taken that document out of the private arena and you put it into the public arena. And if someone finds out that you've notarized those documents, which you never want to do, you just want to have them witnessed, then you have no more privacy, expectation of privacy. So a court can subpoena your trust if you take it into the public arena, and you really don't want to do that. Don't notarize anyone who's notarized them. You may want to rethink it, but with the exception of deeds and quitclaim deeds to assign your home, for instance, into the trust, you do not notarize any trust document. And that's basically, yeah.
Sorry,
Jerry, did you say something?
Well, I was going to say, are you ready to take a call?
Yeah, we're ready to go.
Let's see. 972. John,
Yeah, a couple
come on down.
Yeah, a couple questions real quick, Jerry. 30 seconds less. Anytime you send the stuff out, I always appreciate it. Forget what the other people don't like. Please keep sending your stuff out. I appreciate it. The trust question is, you made a comment one time, Richard, about some property in California about that, and they were not being taxed because they put their house in there. But don't the people in that county or wherever it was in LA, don't the tax people know it's there? And are you saying they still can't get to it because it's privately in a trust? And then I have a second question. Hello?
Richard? He fell off.
Okay.
Say that again, and I'll help you out.
Okay. Basically, Richard told us a month or two ago at a trust call that somebody in California did what he was talking about and put their property privately in a trust, was not notarized or anything. And then basically, it was kind of out of the tax rolls, but physically the taxing agency should know where the house is and why aren't we getting any money off this piece of property. So I'm a little unclear how they got away with that, because I really want to get a land patent and get out of the system if I can, and this might be a perfect way to do that. So if you put it into the trust, they still know the property there. They know it's on the rolls, but why isn't it taxed if it's in the trust? The other little question is, the stupidity is, if I'm down at 7-Eleven and want to buy big gulp, can I do it with my trust card, or is that something that's taxable? I don't want to pay myself any money, but I want to buy various things and put a car in the house, obviously in a trust. But if I want to spend to buy things like a shirt or a suit or the usual stuff. Can I do it?
Well,
out of the
you're
trust?
okay. Hold on. You're rolling several questions into one there. So
Sure.
the first part, and I'm looking to see if he shows back up here.
That's fine.
You put your stuff in the trust, your house. It now belongs to the trust. The trust pays the taxes. The court can't force, as long as you're paid up on your taxes, because that's the biggest thing that they can break into the trust for is non-payment of, because they want their money. Once that's done, you're okay. Just make sure the taxes are paid. They still can't look into the trust other than who owns it. The trust does. And secondly, if you're down at 7-Eleven and you want to buy a Big Gulp, the trust is going to be paying you a wage to manage it. Now that figure depends on what you set. Since you're in control, but you're not in control, you can set how much you get paid. And as for the trust paying for it, if you're out doing trust business, absolutely. But to 7-Eleven, just pull out some cash and do that. It's going to be much easier for you and your tax accountant or CPA or whoever is if you go out for a business dinner, you hand them one big receipt and say, this is what I was doing, rather than just at the 7-Eleven. Because you need to have some form of income. You can pay yourself minimum wage. But the thing is if you go out to do something and you need personal credit, that's different. Okay.
So basically, with the land, a car, a house, or whatever, I'm still paying taxes, but they don't know who owns the trust. And when I do the business deals, basically, I think I still need some kind of receipt or documentation. And I'll talk to a CPA later about what kind of documentation I need over a period of time. But I still am paying taxes on things, and that's all they want, but they don't know who owns the trust, I guess is what you're saying.
Correct. Now, just remember, you go in to talk to some attorney or some accountant and you say, well, I've got a trust. There's your first mistake. You've said only one word, a trust. You've got to, if they have any questions, you direct them to the masterstrust.com, and that gives the everything, because a lot of people have just a trust. And so, oh, well, this doesn't do this. You need this over here. And they get confused. You know what you have, but they don't. So what I'm telling everybody, if you run across that, you say, please go to this website and you'll understand what I have, because those 4 words or 5 words put together is what makes this such a terrific, bulletproof, simple yet complex trust. Okay?
I understand you have a guy in the Master Trust site that lives in Cleburne. I live in Dallas. I figure I'll just talk to him and that'll solve all those problems. So.
Yes, his name is Richard. Also, we got a lot of Richards here. So
I know that. So,
all right.
And again, thank you very much for putting the stuff out. I never have a problem with that. I do that myself for 10 years. So just bring it on. So thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Yeah.
I think this might be it. Nope, that's not it. I think I put somebody down.
Hi, Jerry.
Ken, come on.
Hey.
Go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, you've got your earbuds or something, because there's an echo on your phone. Take it off speaker or your earbuds or something.
Hold on. How's that?
Fair. Keep talking anyway. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. How can this help us Dinar investors who have quite a bit of Dinar? Can we put it in the trust? Is that what we should do?
How long have you been listening?
Oh, about 3 months.
Okay. So the question you're asking, and forgive me because I see your name up here and your email address. We've had a lot of Kennys come in asking stuff like that, and I'm setting the record straight here. Don't know if you're a Kenny or a Nick or not, whatever, but that's been a question. You can convey your currency into it, and then the trust owns the currency along with your home, your car. You can put money into the trust and even buy currency. This is the options that you have. But yes, once you convey it with a conveyance form into the trust owns it, and it's tax deferred if it was a taxable event. Does that help you out?
It did. Thank you so much. I didn't understand how the whole scam went. Have a great day.
Now, see, there we go, the scam. Bless the people's hearts. All right. I don't know if this one is or not. Hello, 949.
Hey, Jerry, Richard.
Okay, so let me get some other people in. Yeah, I'm here.
Well, but hang on. I could hear you. I never went away, but I called back in. So does this allow me to make a comment about something?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So the gentleman just before this lady asked a question about, I think there's a little bit of confusion.
No, that wasn't a lady. That was a setup.
No, not this one. Not this one. The gentleman before this person.
Well, that wasn't. I'm trying to tell you, that wasn't a lady. That was somebody disguising their voice to sound like a woman.
No. The gentleman who asked the before that person, the gentleman that was just before her, asked a question, and I think it was just a little bit. It was. If you can keep me unmuted. What I think. Yeah. What I think. One of the lessons we learned when, especially in California, when real estate was assigned into the trust with a quitclaim deed, is that we learned we don't want to record that deed. A lot of people don't realize that a properly executed quitclaim deed does not need to be recorded to be valid. And so the lesson that we learned was that, and it took us a while to get it taken care of, was that the counties in California are so hungry for money that once you quitclaim your home and record it, that they reassess the property. And it took us a while to get them pushed back with them to get them not to reassess the property, because assigning it into a trust is you're not changing ownership. Well, there you go. You're changing the registration. You're not changing the mortgage. You're just changing the registration. But it's what we do is just not tell people to record any deeds, and that deed is just as valid. It's assigned into the trust. It's held in the trust documents, and I think that's what he was referring to. You still have to pay your property taxes. And on that, and that was that question. I just wanted to clarify that a little bit.
Okay.
And
as
far as it,
all right, here we go. Let me get another one here. Okay. Hello.
Thank you for clarifying the scam. Thank you.
Oh, bless their hearts. Gonna have a lot of that. Hello, 810.
Hi, this is Matt Jennings. Hold on a second. This is Matt Jennings. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You don't have to. I see who you are. It's okay. You don't have to say your name.
Okay. I mentioned my name because I'm one of the accountants, and I just wanted to comment on some of the things that's being said to kind of help Rich out. First of all, when we talk about tax deferment, we're talking about income tax and not, property taxes, because there's so many types of tax. But the biggest tax is typically income tax. So that's the type of tax that is deferred. The second thing the guy said, he mentioned basically spending money. And typically the way that is handled is there's a demand note taken against the property. And that demand note allows you to take money tax-free at will, certain amounts of, as needed, on an as-needed basis. So that's typically how that's done. So you're either expensing the money out, which is not taxable, or you're taking money as needed against your demand note. So if you do those two things, typically you can defer the tax indefinitely. So that's typically how all of those issues are handled.
So you're one of the people that's going to be listed on the website?
Yes.
And where are you located, sir?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you can get my number from Richard, and I can talk later if you don't mind.
Okay, no problem. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
All right, bye. Here we go. 760. Come on down.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi. I'm calling from Carlsbad, and I was just curious how this works for somebody that will be a nonprofit. Is that necessary, or would this be like somebody that's going to be a minister? Would this be all she would need, or would she need something else?
Richard, if you'll speak up, I can see you again. Just go ahead and answer. Richard? Well, darn it. I cannot answer that question, but he can as soon as he calls back in. I don't know what happened to him. This is a different system, and I apologize. I don't like it, but it's free, but it comes with issues. How's that?
Okay. My friend is here. She's going to ask.
And one other question. You were mentioning about deferring the taxes. Well, when can they no longer be deferred? When the person dies, when the trust gets, can the trust be broken after so many years?
Hold on just a second. I don't know how you muted yourself because.
Can you hear now?
No, I can. No. Hold on. I'm talking to Richard. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Just hang up and call back in, Richard, and then raise your hand. I don't know how you got muted.
Came on. He told the number.
He'll be in here in just a second.
Okay.
I don't like this new system. I like the other one a whole lot better. Hopefully he'll be in here in just a second, but thank you for calling in. You have good questions. That's not him.
I think what you had said, though, is about the death thing is that you do have a beneficiary anyway, and then if we died, that would automatically go to that person.
Yeah, you have. It's called, you're the compliance overseer, and you've already selected a successor compliance overseer. So when you kick the bucket, it automatically takes over, and the taxes are still deferred, I believe, because you don't own anything. So if there's a tax on anything, it's going to be just in your personal stuff, because the trust owns everything else. Hold on.
So
Here we go. Hold on. Richard?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. They muted themselves. Let me unmute them. Okay, go ahead.
Let me go back to the lady that asked about a nonprofit.
She's on the line. She can hear you too. You two can talk.
Okay, good. So maybe you could ask that question again, because I was very frustrated trying to get back in.
If someone's becoming a minister, then and creating a church, or being part of a church, what would be the benefits of getting into this kind of trust?
I'll tell you, very interesting. We also have a charitable trust. And it's for people who don't know, we have this basic legacy beneficial trust that everybody talks about, but we have business trusts, charitable trust, and real estate trusts, not REITs. But with a 501c3 or any kind of nonprofit, you have to ask the permission of the IRS to do that job. And Tea Party members, as you know, have been turned down. One of the benefits of operating a church out of a trust is that you don't have the restrictions that you have from the pulpit. One of the reasons that I understand that the evangelicals went so much for Trump is that I think it was Lyndon Johnson that said, if you preach from the pulpit, politics or anything that you want that we don't want you to preach, we will take your nonprofit status away. And in a trust, you don't have to worry about that. Now, you want to, if you care to raise money, you might and have people donate to the church or tithe. You want to operate out of a charitable trust and not just a regular one, but you can operate out of it, but you just can't take donations. So that's one of the main benefits. Churches should be operating out of trusts. So I hope that answers your question. You're just not subject to IRS scrutiny. To operate a church and a trust, you go in and get a tax ID number or a irrevocable trust, and you're in business.
Awesome. Okay, and the second thing is we mentioned that the interest can be deferred. Well, is there a time of reckoning at any point? Does it continue to get deferred ad infinitum, or is there a certain time frame, or when it changes hands in a certain way, when the beneficiaries take over? Is it when do you raise the flag on when deferrals need to be addressed?
Okay, so let's just talk about trusts. No matter what anyone says, have to be renewed every 21 years. You do that yourself, so don't worry about that. So technically speaking, taxes, if you have an increase in value of an asset and it stays in the corpus of the trust, it is tax deferred forever, or 21 years. At the end of 21 years, if you don't renew it, something would have to happen to it. But it's tax deferred, and it's only taxed when a trustee makes a decision. The trust is generally not taxed. It's not taxed. You can make a mistake and leave some ordinary income in a trust and it will be taxed, but you don't have to do that. You won't do that. So it's basically tax deferred until the trustee makes a decision to either take money out of the trust in the form of a salary or pay money directly to a beneficiary, taking money out of the trust. And it's at that point that it's taxable to them as personal income. So it's at the end of 21 years, if you didn't have a succession plan in order for a successor trustee and compliance overseer, and you had beneficiaries, the beneficiaries could either choose to liquidate the trust at that point or could elect a new trustee from the beneficiaries. So it's the trust defers taxes, and this, back 40 years ago when these trusts were first used, they were used in the oil and gas business, and they would buy a piece of land, put a well on it, had very little value, and the well hits, and they have the trust takes the hit for the taxes of the increase in value, and then over time you mitigate the amount of taxes that you pay over a longer period of time. So does that answer your question?
Well, some of it. I guess I didn't understand the mitigation because if as you had suggested, the land is worthless, then you put an oil rig on it. The oil rig makes millions and millions of dollars. How do you mitigate that increase, that exponential increase? Is it just that you're amortizing over so many years?
No. If the trustee never took a dispersal never took a disperse income to himself in form of salary, or didn't write a check to the beneficiaries, there would not be any taxable event associated with this trust.
As long as the trust continued.
As long as the trust continues and the money stays in the corpus of the trust. Now,
okay, got it. I got it.
Okay, but now you can utilize the money. You can reinvest the money in the trust, and that's not taking money out of the trust. So you can invest into another oil well, and it hits again. And as long as you're not taking money out, it's tax deferred.
Okay, and and when it is taken out, that percentage that is taken out and given to whichever entity, that entity needs to pay taxes as to what is taken out. That's correct.
Now, there's another way, and by the way, Matt Jennings is one of the 4 accountants that you'll hear about tomorrow morning, and he is a very bright guy. He's in Atlanta. And he touched on something that all of the trustee and the beneficiaries have the legal ability to borrow money from the trust. And you fill out a trust document, a loan document, you sign an affidavit of use. And once you borrow money from the trust, that's not taxable income to the trustee or the beneficiaries. It's a loan.
But don't you have to pay it back?
If you put it on a 5-year.
Hold on. Let's because I know where this is going. Let's just because we're going to get way off in left field, and let's try because I want to wrap this up here in a little bit.
Yeah, that's not when you borrow it. It's not income to you, and so. That's another way that you have to do that, to get to utilize the money without it being taxable to you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's see. If you'll put your hand down, Chris. I clicked on, Ryan. 850, come on.
Hey, Jerry. I have a quick question. My husband is going to be the compliance overseer, and I'm going to be a beneficiary. And I know that most things can be paid to me if I need a mortgage or whatever. Can you also purchase things that are not necessary, like clothing, haircuts, and so on, or medical? Can you purchase, let's say, jewelry or artwork for a beneficiary, or is it only things that are necessary, like health and maintenance like that?
Richard? I don't know what happens. I'm doing something wrong. Let's see if this is it. Nope, that's not it.
Hello?
Nope, hold on. I lost Richard. I'm trying to find him. Sorry.
Okay.
Richard. I hate this system. Hello, Richard. I think that's it. Richard?
Jerry, this thing, when I in this format, when I stop talking and you go someplace else, it automatically mutes me.
I know, and I don't know how to get you off anyway. So
okay, let me answer that lady's question. the trustee and the beneficiaries in this trust, and from what I understood, you would be the beneficiary and your husband. Can you hear me, Jerry?
Hello. Yeah,
Jerry?
I'm trying to fix things here, and
Okay.
go ahead.
All right. So your husband, who's the trustee and the compliance overseer, with you being the beneficiary, he is managing the trust and managing the assets of the trust for the benefit of the beneficiaries. He is treated a little differently than you are. You, as the beneficiary, can have things done for you as long as they don't pay you directly. In other words, let's just say you put your home into the trust.
Well, she wants to know, can you buy jewelry, art paintings, and things like that for her, as to the beneficiary?
The
clothes?
trust, yeah. Well, artwork is different than clothes. I was going to get to the point that the beneficiaries can have clothing allowances. They can have cars. They can drive trust cars. None of that is income to the trustee. And the trust can make any decision that it pretty much wants to in buying assets for the home. If you want to buy precious jewelry, I that's not a question. You don't want to get too out there. Now, I would think you could probably treat the trust. The trust can be in any business it wants to. And if it wants to hold as an asset artwork for investment, that's fine. You store it on your walls. You just can't use the trust as a piggy bank. It's supposed to be for the basic well-being and care of the beneficiaries. It can pay for your medical expenses. But I often, and this applies to men and women when I use this example, let's just say that you wanted to have an elective surgery. The trust generally shouldn't pay for that, but what the trustee can do is loan the money to the beneficiary to do whatever that person wants with that money. So the trustee has to pay for things, pretty basic things for himself. I have a trust account that I've marked as personal, and any money that I put in there, I know either has to be backed up with a note that I borrowed the money, or I will pay taxes on that money. And if I want a cup of coffee or a shoe shine or a haircut, I basically have to pay for that myself. But your husband can pay for your haircuts, your well-being, clothing allowance, a car, the gas for the car, the insurance, and that's permissible.
Hope that covers everything for you, ma'am. I don't know I don't like this system because I don't know why, but it kicks people off. I've had people put themselves in the queue. Anyway, let me take one more.
Hi, Vic. Hi, Baker.
Johnny.
Hello. Hey, how are you?
Good. You're the last call of the day.
Well, thank you for taking my call. I understand completely about the advantages of the tax-deferred assets. Can you please explain to me the matter? Well, of deferring.
You're cutting in and out. You got me on speaker or something, or you've got in headphones that make an echo. So go take everything off and just talk through the phone.
Hold on. No.
Oh, no. You'll call back in here in a minute. Richard, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
So when Johnny calls back in. 770. Hello.
Hi, Jerry. Hi, Richard. I have a question. Okay, I have a trust, but it's not the master trust. And I've been listening to Richard talk about this master trust for a while. What happens if when the exchange comes, I put my money in the trust that I currently have, but I want to move it over to another trust, the master trust?
What kind of trust is it?
What do you mean, what kind of trust is it?
Is it an irrevocable? Is it a revocable?
I believe it's irrevocable.
Well, but is it a family type trust?
Yes. I mean, yes, it's a family trust.
Okay, I would suspect that it is a revocable trust. And if you do what you're going to do into that trust, exchange into that trust, then it would be subject to taxes, because in order to have what I mentioned before, in order to have tax deferral, it has to be written as an irrevocable complex trust, which this trust is.
Mm-hmm.
And if you put it in that trust first, and you can transfer it to this trust for asset protection, but that trust probably is going to pay the taxes. It will if it's a revocable family type trust.
Yeah, because my concern, like I was listening to you talk about not notarizing the papers or whatever. Well, in my trust, I did have them notarized, and I was trying to keep everything out of, the public, as well as having the asset protection. So the more and more I listen, the madder and madder I get for not getting the master trust. And I'm just trying to see what my options would be at this point. Unless
I have known, and I don't know, well, I do know why they do it, of family revocable trusts. They're being told to record them at the county recorder. And
well, no, I didn't do that.
Well, understand, but here's a rule of thumb: if you will never have, and I know this for an absolute fact because I've gone to seminars on family trust, you will not have any asset protection or tax deferral in a family revocable trust.
Okay, now I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, about the only thing a revocable family trust does is just help you bypass probate.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was finished. Go ahead.
I don't think this is a family. What would make it a family trust? You're using that terminology. I don't.
Who is the grantor of the trust?
Who opened it for you?
My son did.
Okay, but your son...
Actually, no, wait a minute. I'm the grantor, and my son is the trustee.
Okay, then it's
you really don't know unless you're looking at her paperwork. It's hard to look through
that's why I'm saying I do believe it's an irrevocable trust. I don't believe Okay, go ahead.
Here's the thing I would do. Did you buy this through a law firm?
Yes.
Okay, call the law firm up and have them give you.
Okay.
Have them give you their opinion letter on this trust. You want to have that anyway, because if you can only buy a trust legally from a law firm, and if you need to rely. See, we publish our opinion letter on the Rosen & Rosen law firm for anybody to see, because the opinion letters is important. Number one, if the opinion letter is not accurate, it's a disbarable offense to publish that. The Rosens could be disbarred if their opinion letter is not legally written. And because they give you an opinion letter, then they have to stand behind that. They have to protect you if anybody ever comes after the trust itself.
Okay.
So call that law firm up and ask them for their opinion letter that will state that it is a
what type of trust it is.
Irrevocable complex trust that allows for tax advantages. That's what you got to do.
Okay. And therefore, because I'm pretty sure it is not. Have you heard of Trust Unlimited?
Yeah.
Well, that's who I got my trust through.
I get them to give you their opinion letter about the trust, and then you can contact Richard and have a more in-depth conversation.
Okay, yeah. Richard, can you give me your number one more time, please?
Let me give you his email address.
Go ahead.
I'm ready.
RTH 6996. 6996.
Right, I have that.
At gmail.com.
Okay. RTH6996 at gmail.com.
Yes, and the phone number is 949.
Okay.
633.
4500. 4500. Okay, I'm going to do that, and I'll be calling you, Richard.
Okay, that's fine.
All righty. Mm-hmm. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Richard. Bye.
Yes, ma'am.
Bye. So,
did that gentleman come back in?
Nope. Never saw him raise his hand again. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Hope that helped out. I will tweet out how to do the replay because there is no web link. Unfortunately, that you got to call this number in, or the same number you called for this call. You put in the access code, and then there's going to be like £1 or £1. I'll tweet it out. So that's just a little heads up. It's going to be a little bit, probably later on today. So at that, Richard, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, hold on just a second.
Yep.
This session is no longer being recorded.
So for the people that hung around, here's a little tidbit. I don't care what anybody says. We're not at the bank. I've listened to Dizzy. We're close. We're very close, but not as close as what everybody else is saying. My timeline, I said last year, was it could go to the inauguration. We made that. I said, and it could make it to February 1st. Why did I say that? Because of UN update guidelines, or, IMF. There we go. Because the IMF is part of the UN. So we're there. I think that we're looking, let's see, today's the 26th. Next Tuesday is the end of the month. And they've always said the UN or IMF guidelines was 2 or 3 days either side of that, of the end of the month. They can do their thing. And Dizzy must be a liberal piece of poo throwing Trump underneath the bus by saying, he's doing treasonous acts by not divesting himself. Yes, he did divest himself. He turned it all over to his trusts. He's not in it. Just because it's in his trust that his sons run, this is no different than the Clintons and the Clinton Foundation. Let's just wake up and smell the coffee, people. Frank has a pretty good idea. Go ahead.
No, just thank you. I'm going to get off. I've got some things I need to do. Thank you, though.
All right, bye.
All right, bye-bye.
And Yosef and One Who Believes, everybody's just taking a shot in the dark here is what they think is going on. Mountain goat, blah, blah, blah. It's just remain grounded. It's going to happen. It has a better chance of happening now that we've got a godly man in the presidential office, and just because he believes in torture, look, even their own people who defy them and say, we don't want to do this. Hell, they're cutting the heads off of their own people and burning them at the stake. Not a good thing. So there we go. I could go on and on and on and on and on my little rant, but what else can I say? Oh, as we leave the end of the session, here we go. All right, everybody. I've said my piece. I'm out of here. And no, I don't know if I'm going to do calls again. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Get away from me, you evil, wicked man.